Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. It is Wednesday night, April the 16th, 2025. And if it is Wednesday night, it is definitely Black Men Speak. We want to welcome everyone to our special show this evening where we will have a special returning guest that we are very excited to hear from. But prior to the start, obviously, you notice that my cohort and partner in time in crime, that is J.R. Stewart, is not with us. Had a family situation that he had to deal with and go out of town and take care of. So do please give your prayers to Jimmy and his family. His brother had some health issues that he's dealing with, and so we look forward to having him next week. So do please keep Jimmy and his family in your prayers. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and move forward with the topic of the day, discussing how African Americans help build the Dallas, Texas economy. And we will have our historian, author, activist, and minister, Professor Clarence Glover, otherwise known as Professor Freedom, who will be sharing with us our topic of the day, and then will also talk to us about his exhibit that will be happening at the African American Museum in Fair Park, Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Professor Glover. Welcome back.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. And to Jimmy, certainly our prayers are going out, and we're certainly glad to be back with you this evening.
So with that being said, typically I would introduce our special guest, and he has actually been here several times because typically at the beginning of the year, or really actually beginning of the year, he has talked to us about several different topics. Watch night service, he's talked to us, of course, about the Dr. Martin Luther King celebration and a variety of different topics. And so if you have been around, you actually know this brother. He's tight, he knows his history, and he's going to bring the funk. But for those of you who may be here for the first time, if you could search on Clarence Glover SMU to get a little bit more on his biography, because I would probably be talking about 10 minutes with all the things that this brother has accomplished. And also you can search on Glover Cotton as well to get a little bit more information about a reference point for what we're going to be talking about today. But with that being said,
brother.
Yes, sir.
May I do this? Someone has just knocked at my door, ring my doorbell, and I don't want them doing it. Let me just
go right
back, sir.
All right, no problem. So while he is taking care of business, want to again thank everybody for joining us this evening. You are in for a special treat and a special show tonight. And so for those of you who if you have not done so already, number one, get on that chat line. Number two, subscribe if you have not already subscribed to the show. As Jimmy has told us in the past, for some reason, some folks get knocked off of the show. Share this information, this content, and this history for those who need to see it, which is practically everybody. So with that being said, let's get back.
This is live, y'all.
Absolutely. All right, Professor Glover, glad to have you. I'm going to have you to kind of open us up for a prelude of what we're going to be talking about today, and then we're going to get to it. So I yield the floor.
Well, certainly thank you, Brother Jimmy here. We are excited about having at the Dallas African American Museum exhibit Big D Cotton. Big D Cotton without us. Big D Cotton without us. A DEI exhibition. And this particular exhibition is focused on my research over the last 40 years. I have been involved in the diversity and multiculturalism for 40 plus years. And so this is not new to me. I've been working on it. Now we have an exhibit at the museum called Big D Dallas, and the area of my research has been cotton. What I've done, I've created this artwork myself where I've used cotton, the Big D cotton, to make the Big D. And inside of it, I have the city of Dallas, Big D cotton. Beneath it, I have the image of African-American men and women from 1905 in the plantation area in the Dallas cotton field. I used this picture from SMU where I taught, where I worked, and I have permission to use it. And it is a picture of someone's ancestors in this city picking cotton that built the city of Dallas, you see. And so this is the official logo, Big D cotton, and this is on my T-shirt here. Dig Deep Cotton Without Us, with the QR code at the bottom to take you to the article and the Observer that gives more information about the city of Dallas being built by African American, being built on the principle of cotton. My thesis here is that whenever we talk about cotton in Dallas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama, we must begin to talk about our ancestors and recognize that they were the human engines that were used to build this economy on cotton, both in the South, but Dallas in particular was a pivotal space and place for the cotton industry.
This brings up a very good point, and I appreciate it. For those of you who may have paid attention during history class, Texas history, and or may have done a little research on the history of Dallas, of course, they attribute the founding of Dallas, Texas, and or Dallas County to John Neely Bryan, who settled here in the late 1800s and established a trading post and kind of used that and leveraged that in order to bring more people here. And, it's interesting, Professor Glover, because when we learn about history in school and we learn about history in other places, we know we've always been here. Our ancestors have always been here, but unfortunately, we are not included in a part of that story and a part of that narrative. Help me establish the context of why this research has been your passion for so long, why it's important, and why people need to know about this history.
First of all, Mr. Duncan, is that I offer to people this thesis. They're not supposed to tell us, nor are we supposed to be a part of their narrative. It's their story.
Right.
As they say, the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rule.
Agree.
So, just like many other cultures, be they Native American, be they Asians, Jewish, or other people who have suffered also. But one of the things that they've done, they've created their own narratives. I think because we've gone through slavery and we've lived so intimately with European Americans, we have developed both a pain and a shame and a fear of sharing our story. So I suggest to you that it is our responsibility to create the narrative, particularly my generation. I'm 69 on this coming Sunday, and we came out of the era of civil rights children. I was 10 years old when Dr. King was assassinated. We lived under Jim Crow. So we have a responsibility of bridging that history, if you will. And now that we are where we are today, and many of the things are facing our nation, it is even more important that we be about the business of doing as we do tonight, both here in homes and in churches and schools, in the communities and sororities, fraternities. We must do it. We should have been doing it before now, but now we are almost forced to do it, you see? And we even did it during slavery. We had our own schools. We had our church schools. We had our community schools, our social clubs, et cetera, et cetera. So integration did not serve us well. We lost a lot during that time.
I would agree with you, and Jimmy and I have talked about this subject on several of our shows, and I believe as we begin to turn over the education of our children and for lack of a better term, the lexicon used to propagate our history and our culture, we have turned that over to schools. Of course, your generation and prior, leading up to my generation, we at least controlled a large part of what was being taught in the schools in terms of history, in terms of our history, in terms of our culture. To your point, integration came across. A lot of that got lost, quite frankly. And,
Exactly.
there are some schools who do a pretty decent job of that, but a lot of that is being lost. A lot of that history is being written out, and it has become even more of our responsibility, if it was not before, to make sure that we codify, protect, and preserve. I know as a culture, we have an oral history of translating our history and our culture. We translate our history and our culture through the things that we do, whether it's cooking, the way that we do things, our traditions and things of that nature. But it's become even more pertinent now that we protect, defend, and preserve that history. I'm going to lean on you, given that a lot of our parenting, a lot of our community has become so accustomed to depending on someone else. Where do we begin to start on that? Of course, we have the museums like the African American Museum in Dallas Fair Park. We have museums across the country. But, as Jimmy and I talk about all the time, we have to start at home with this.
Well, let me just begin. First of all, let me say to our listeners tonight, as you and I've said before, if they have questions, please share them in the box because we want this to become a dialogue and exchange with us tonight. And I really enjoy the questions and comments, as we go through. I suggest to you that this should be what we should do all the time. It's not something that we should all. Every culture has responsibility to educate its own. In my ministry, in the context of the church, I strongly believe that every church, every religious body that the African American community embraces should have a cultural component in it, you see, because our story is our faith story as well. So that's one thing in our homes, certainly. I believe what I call home, church, then school. So therefore, as adults, but we must understand that we're going through transitions. We're coming out of slavery. We're coming out of Jim Crow. That's a short period of time, if you will. So we have to, in this period of time, be able to create. So for an example, talking about policies and procedures. While at SMU, when I arrived there in 1979, and as I proceeded through that, we wrote the diversity harassment policies and did the multicultural training. That was in the 70s and in the 80s and the 90s. At DISD, when I arrived there as assistant superintendent for multicultural education, one of the things that we did in Dallas was to write the multicultural textbook adoption process, which then forced all textbook companies to be multicultural inclusive. It started here in Dallas, Texas. Then it spread it throughout the country. Then 10 years later, as I've said before, it was challenged by the conservative state board, but that was a part of the work I did. So that's how small that window is, Mr. Duncan, you see, that in our lifetime. But while we did integrate, we lost those places and spaces where we could just give to our children, our community. So now we must do what we're doing through technology, as we're doing tonight, to create an opportunity for this to be done across different platforms. And so I brought material with me. I'm sort of just the Snell part of it, where I have books and literature and materials as a professor to share tonight, so I can give you the historical context as well.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Let's start off with this. A large part of the basis of the thesis that you share is how cotton built Dallas, Texas, how cotton really built a large part of this country. We've talked about this, but there are some folks who may not have been a part of that conversation that we had earlier. Can you, at a high level, give us some context?
Well, one of the books I have right now is one of my colleagues, a friend, Seeds of Empire by Andrew Torget, Andrew Torget, Torget. And I just offered this, Andrew Torget, Seeds of Empire, Cotton Slavery and the Transformation of the Texas Borderland. I just want to read a brief quote that he makes here regarding the founding father of Texas, Stephen F. Austin. This is what Stephen F. Austin said back in 1824. The primary product that will elevate us from poverty is cotton, Austin explained to a Tohono friend. And we cannot do this without the help of slaves. Definitive. We cannot do this. In essence, the Texas nation, as a nation, the Constitution 1836, you can read it, please. It was grounded on slavery, bringing African people to Tejas, or Texas, to produce cotton here for the economic wealth of the European settlers. It would later on be called the Peters. We had several colonies, like on the East Coast, you had the English colonies. Then you had the English colonies down here with Stephen F. Austin and later Peters colony, which is made up of Denton, where you have then the colony. That's William Peters. So these colonies said that each European man who would come here could get free 640 acres of free land to grow cotton, particularly 320 acres, a single man, but they had to bring their enslaved African people with them, who were the labor force. That's the beginning. That's what Texas was built upon. Even when we go back to the Alamo, I'm doing research now on a gentleman we call Alamo Joe. He was the last living witness to the Alamo, African-American man who was enslaved to Travis, Colonel Travis. But we must understand that our use as labor was built upon our history as African people who had already been masters in the cotton field. What many people don't understand is that we were not enslaved just arbitrarily. We were enslaved based upon certain skills that they brought us to America. For an example, when you're looking at the Fulani or herdsmen or the cattlemen, as you see, cowboys, you see men who handle what? Cattle. You're looking at the Benin culture, particularly the bronze and the iron. You look at New Orleans, the Carolinas, you see the bronze, the iron, the fence work. Those groups of people, those men in particular, you did that. The women had the skills of cooking, the various foods, the gumbo, okra, African word, black-eyed peas, watermelon. All of these unique skills were brought here systematically. So when we look at cotton, which is, there's a Yoruba word called owu, which means cotton. And the owu people were major cotton producing people in Africa. And they were brought to America. So they had that skill and knowledge at that time. And those first generation African men and women, and who later on their children and children became the engine of that. But there's a story behind that, because not until the cotton gin that was patented by Eli Whitney came along that it became productive, because the cotton here, you had to break it from the seed, and that's laborious work, and you could get only so much of that out, you see. But when the cotton gin was invented and then patented, then you could do that with a machine and let the men and women go and pick and pull the cotton. Texas comes into play because it was Robert Munger, who came out of Mahia, Texas, who invented this massive cotton gin. The word gin means engine. That's all, cotton engine. He magnified Eli Whitney's small cotton gin. That cotton gin company was built downtown Dallas on Trunk Street in Deep Ellum.
The Deep Ellum that we know today.
Deep Ellum, Trunk
Yes.
Street is there today. It's called the Continental Gin, and it was merged together. From there, the revolution changed. They made cotton gins all over the nation from this city.
Okay, so wait. Kind of go back and repeat that again, because I don't think people really caught that when you said started here, went across the nation. Kind of give us some context to that.
Robert Munger's cotton gin, this is in my exhibit. You can see the cotton gin. The cotton gin factory down in Deep Ellum on Trunk Street was built by Robert Munger from Mahia.
Yes.
From this location, they began to build cotton gin machinery for the cotton gin factories that went all over America. Down the street on the other end, where you have the building where President Kennedy was assassinated from, that was a building that housed the plow company that built the plows that broke the land. Elm Street was a center point of the cotton industry from one end to the other. Later on, it would become the place where they would bring their cotton bale by bale by bale to be sold, you see?
So it was a market. It was, for lack of a better term, it was, when you talk about Elm Street today, it was a market for
It was a cotton market.
Correct.
It was the cotton market. We're not simply talking about slavery. Now we're talking about what? The 1900s.
Correct.
Not the 1800s. And then you had eventually the building of the Cotton Exchange building down on San Jacinto Street, which became the largest inland cotton exchange in the world. In Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Now, if I may read for you a portion of this one. Yeah. Oh.
And while he is picking that up, folks, I want to acknowledge cousin Audrey K, who is on the chat line. I want to thank you for joining us. I also want to acknowledge Brother Frederick V. Roberts, Esquire. Thank you for joining us this evening as well. Please share your thoughts and your questions while we have Professor Glover. While he is still here, please submit your questions and thoughts on that so he can share that on you. So, Professor Glover, as you were saying.
Here we go. From the Book of Dallas, 1976. The Book of Dallas. This is why I collect. This is old school. You know, these are books.
Yes.
So many times we're now online, but books are the source. If there was any one product that helped to make Dallas famous, it was cotton. That versatile, strong fiber. After the Civil War, Dallas farmers discovered that the surrounding black land was ideal for growing cotton profitably. In the fall of 1875, more than 40,000 bales of cotton were ginned, near and compressed in Dallas. Lower Elm Street became a curbside cotton market. By 1880, cotton traders annually brought and sold over 50,000 bales. The Cotton Exchange was organized in 1907. The Gaston Building was erected at Commerce and Lamar to get the cotton traders off the street. Storage yards cleared the curb. The volume of cotton business activity grew so much to an extent that in 1925, the Cotton Exchange building, which I just showed you, was built. It was one of the largest buildings in Dallas at the time and served as a symbol of Dallas's growing status as the center of cotton. What I like to offer to you that as I read, behind every statement about cotton, there are African American people. Behind every bale of cotton that we talk about, there's someone who picked it and someone who baled it and someone who ginned it. Therein lies Big D Cotton without us.
Help break down the title itself, Big D Cotton without us. What does that mean? Share your context with just the naming convention, and in particular, without us.
Without us means that if we were not there, it would not have happened. If we had not been there, what we see today, or what we read as I'm reading this evening to you, what you see in the museum, which will run from now until Juneteenth, from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Tuesday through Saturday at the African American Museum, and we're going to have special days in the future as well. That without us, our ancestors, who we should not be ashamed of, but rather recognize what they lived through for us to live.
Mhm.
You see? That's very important because today, so many of us, we suffer what I call post-traumatic cotton syndrome. There are men and women I talk to who are cotton pickers. It is emotionally devastating. We try to work through that. There are young men and women who have never picked cotton, but they're upset because of cotton. You see, cotton was not the problem. Slavery and Jim Crow was the problem. Those are conditions. There's nothing wrong with picking cotton. There's something wrong with not getting paid for picking cotton. Thus, there's nothing wrong with working hard, manual labor, but there's something wrong with not getting paid for working hard or doing manual labor. So, which we have stepped away from. Manual labor is very important, be it picking cotton, be it cooking, be it building houses, be it building roads, Those critical things, infrastructures, are still as important for any people to do to be able to be sufficient, you see.
So for maybe some younger people, not all of them for sure, but for some younger people who say, you know what, I'm not trying to work hard. I'm not trying to do manual labor. I'm trying to work smart. What would you say to them?
I would say to them, that's impossible. We would always need to have different levels of work, be it the construction, be it engineers, be it scientists. Everybody's not going to be the scientist. Everybody's not going to be a football player, a rapper. Everybody's not going to be an administrator, a school teacher. We need plumbers. We need yardmen. Yes. There's no shame in work, honorable work. And we must begin to instill that into our children and our children's children, you see?
Mhm.
Because Any people who cannot, let me go back to the basics. We talk about food deserts. There are
Correct.
no food deserts. There are some people who don't want to grow food. Back in the day, most African Americans remember we had food all over. I have gardens in my front yard. I have chickens in my backyard. I have 6 hens. I have a garden here. I have gardens in Louisiana. There's nothing wrong with us growing our own food. For an example, we are the green eatingest people in the world.
Yes.
We ought to be in the green business. Hello?
We should dominate what we do.
We should dominate what we eat.
Mhm.
You see? We should control the green business. Collards, mustards, turnips, purple hull peas. You see?
Yes, sir.
Cornbread. You see? So just like they have tortillas, you go around everywhere, you see Hispanic women in parking lots selling what? Tamales,
Correct.
tacos, right?
Correct.
I just offered that, and you see who building the city? Hispanic men. Our
Correct.
homes, my house was built by an African American man. Most of the things we see around us before the 1980s were built by African American carpenters.
Agreed.
Okay,
My great grandfather was a cement man. He laid cement.
skilled labor. I see that skill. Well, we need that today. This is what we're trying to do with this. May I read for you from a later book so we have a historical context? One
Please
was
do.
19. This is the book entitled Dallas, Proud Heritage, Shining Future. This is from 1990, and it states, as it did with most settlements on the North Texas prairie, the economy of Dallas originally sprang from farming. In the earliest days, wheat, corn, and a variety of fruits and vegetables were grown in what is now Dallas. But the fertile black soil of the region proved almost ideal for cotton. When the railroads arrived in the 1870s and North Texas cotton finally became readily accessible to the rest of the country, Dallas quickly established itself as the center of the nation's cotton belt, and by 1900 had emerged as the world's largest inland cotton market. The Dallas Cotton Exchange became one of the busiest commercial trading facilities outside of New York and Chicago, and the city also became a leading center for the manufacturing of cotton ginning equipment, i.e., Robert Munger, the Continental Gin Factory.
Thank you. And actually, we have a comment slash question regarding Robert Munger. This comes from Frederick V. Roberts out of Prairie View, Texas. He asked Professor Glover, did Robert Munger's family own slaves? And did he make any contributions to African American people, considering he donated money to Southern Methodist University as one of its founders?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. Thank you so very much for that. He was one of the first contributors to Southern Methodist University, and used even cotton as collateral. Uh, that was the Caruth plantation at the time. Okay, I am not. I have not researched his background in terms of enslaved Africans, and I never used the word slaves. By the way, let us tweak that tonight. We were not slaves. We were Africans who were enslaved. First, second, third generation of African men and women.
Okay.
That's so important, I think, because as Professor Freedom, as I often say, and I share with people, I'm Professor Freedom, I think it changes off your brain so your mind can work. And I think we limit ourselves when we use the word slave. So I'm just offering this to you, sir. So I don't think he owned any enslaved. I mean, I have not researched whether he owned enslaved Africans in Mahia, but I
Okay.
have followed his work in terms of the gin company that he built here in Dallas, Texas, on Deep Ellum. Now, I do have another book here. You mentioned the enslaved people, a book entitled The Caruth, mentioning SMU, on which SMU is established, the Caruth family. And I'd like to read a brief excerpt. Some of more interesting blacks who worked for the Caruth. Uncle Abe Fuqua, Fuqua, the gin master, was a former slave who had the book says slave, I'm gonna use that, who had come to work for William Bar Caruth, right after the Civil War, when Will Sr. was a little boy. Abe would sometimes take him to the gin with him and dig a place in the cotton seed where the young man would sit and watch, all snug and warm, while his babysitter uh, bu- bu- abused him himself repairing the gin, watching him. Abe was very intelligent. Abe Fuqua, the former enslaved African, was very intelligent and exceptionally strong. It is said that he could insert his fingers into the hole of the blacksmith anvil and lift it up off the block. That's a mighty strong man. He worked for the family until Mattie Caruth died in 1907. According to Will Caruth, Fuqua, Fuqua Street in North Dallas was named after him because he owned property there. I've been to that street. It's over near Haskell, near that area. The street was named after him. Also, on that same plantation area, you had other families like the Fields with the Caruths. Then you had the Bonner family. Oh, the Bonner family. This is where it's very important. Mr. Bonner was a gentleman who had been enslaved in Dallas, brought here. But during the emancipation, he was freed. He went on to own land and grow cotton in North Dallas. He owned 2,000 acres in what is today North Dallas, up into Alpha Road and other places, Hamilton Park area. They then took his land and made North Dallas. And this is where the freedmen communities existed throughout North Dallas. And there are families today, like the Bonners and the Fields and others, who live. Let's see if I can see. This is, the light is not good, but we have many freedmen towns where these Joppy, 10th Street and Oak Cliff. William Brown Miller, who did own enslaved Africans, had one of the largest plantations during the antebellum South, 7,000 acres of land in what is now Oak Cliff. The house stood where the Good Street Baptist Church is today. It was moved to the Old City Park, over in Old City Park today, and the cabin with Henry Chris Hines, who worked for him. This was coming during that time. The cabins are there, the original cabins and the original houses. Henry Chris Hines was given by William Brown Miller the ferry across the Trinity. Mr. Henry Chris Hines became one of the first African-American men in America to own his own business. Right here. So you see, we have rich history in this city, going all the way back, but all the way up into and let me put it in context. When you think about cotton picking, the cotton picking and machinery that we have today was not perfected until the 60s. I'm 69. We'll be on April 19th, Saturday. That's why I invited everybody to come and celebrate with at the museum, 11 o'clock for the lecture. But what happened is that when you think about cotton, it is all being hand-picked up the material. So the majority of the cotton industry that built the city of Dallas and the Deep South and America, which made it into the Industrial Revolution, which changed the world, was hand-picked by African-American men and women, boys and girls, thereby without us.
So all that being said, the foundation, the engine that built Dallas and what we see today, even though people obviously don't see it today, they don't see the cotton fields today, but the foundation that built the nexus of the economy in Dallas was cotton.
Not oil, not cattle.
Right.
I say
most people associate it with oil
and cattle. Before we were cowboys, we were cotton pickers. Before we were what? Cowboy, and the word cowboys associated to what? Cattle men.
Correct.
And the European men who owned the cattle. Okay. So we have that reality. You remember the show Dallas?
Yes, of course.
When it would come on, you always saw the pumping oil and you saw the cattle. You never saw what?
Cotton.
Cotton. So one of the goals, just like we have Cowtown in Fort Worth, I have declared Dallas Big D Cotton. That's who we are.
Mhm.
We hope that the city will catch up with us, the city others, but it is a true emblem, Big D Cotton. What we must do is get through the shame and the pain and recognize that policy, politics, all of these, everything was built around cotton. When you come to the exhibit, you'll see an excellent video that you're able to be educated on. You're going to see images that allow you to study and to read. If you go Google Glover Cotton tonight, you're going to start reading tonight. There's several articles there. You can start reading before you get to the museum. And when you get to the museum, we'll do more. On certain Saturdays, we're going to have Saturdays designated for home and family. On one Saturday, we want to do church. One Saturday, we want to do educators. And one Saturday, we want to do politics and business. All that. So we want people to come out and really understand that cotton drove the engine for all of these components of our society.
And when we say cotton, we're talking about our ancestors.
Exactly. We're talking about our ancestors. If cotton was the engine, then we were the conductors.
Correct. And all that being said, Dallas wouldn't be what it is, where it is, doing what it's doing without our ancestors building it.
All the way from Dallas to Shreveport, because in Shreveport, when 1836, where I'm from, we have the Alamo hotels. We have streets named Travis, Cotton, all of that over there in Shreveport because they are directly connected to the Texas Revolution and the Republic of Texas. We go into Mississippi, we go into Alabama, we go into Georgia, all these areas. The cotton industry changed the trajectory of the national economy. Without it, Cinco de Mayo, which is coming up, the war, we call it Battle of Pueblo, it was about cotton, you see, the French. And if that war had been not, but it was about the warriors who came out the mountains of the Yanka warriors, and that's another piece of my history, the African warriors, the
Yes.
Maroons, who
Yes.
helped to defeat the French. That gave Lincoln a little bit more time and Grant and others. America's history would have been radically different. But it's all about cotton. And wherever there is cotton, I submit to you, Mr. Duncan, there we are. And we must claim our centrality and our role in that and not be ashamed of our great-great-great-grandmothers and great-great-grandfathers and others. That's where I'm concerned. We do them a grave injustice.
What does that look like?
That looks like us first calling their names. That looks like us knowing who they were, not being ashamed of their faces, not being ashamed of where they lived, not being ashamed of going back to where they lived, going back to East Texas, Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama. It means understanding that these men and women that have been turned into stereotypes by society and made jokes about, that we must reclaim their dignity.
And when we reclaim their dignity, when we call our names, when we acknowledge with pride what they did to contribute to not just where we are, but to where the city is and where our country is, what's next?
Well, we began to embrace first of all, the ability of valuing work, hard work. I think that's very important. Being able to understand what contributions they made. And we talk about economic reciprocity, if we're talking about understanding cotton rich and cotton poor, because that's what we really live in. We live in a society where some people, particularly in European American and Africans, European Americans are cotton rich and we're cotton poor.
Explain that when you say cotton rich in today's context.
Cotton is cotton. Money, cotton is money.
There you go. That's where I was trying to get you to go.
Yeah, cotton is money. Economy.
Explain that for people who don't understand what that means.
Cotton is money. First of all, every dollar bill in your pocket is made from 75% cotton and 25% linen. Ain't no paper in it. That's why we can wash it and spin it. It's money. I don't want any paper money. I don't want no paper. I want cotton. See, I want cotton because then that cotton, which was turned into what? A U.S. currency. Every 500-pound bale of cotton that is gin produces 313,600 $100 bills. money. The cotton industry not only does cotton, but it spins off so many other industries. Building towns, building communities, building factories, building stores, supplies.
Are you saying that in terms of the profits that are generated from cotton that are
Not
building
just
those other
profit, but the
industries?
spin-off businesses from cotton that cotton creates.
Reinvesting the money.
Yes. There has been a community has been cotton rich and reinvesting, spending off of that cotton. We never had a chance to what? Own our money, keep that money. So therefore we became cotton poor. Whenever we hear the terms an undeveloped community, which is oftentimes associated with us, that means that we didn't get a chance to reap the benefits of our labor. That's the same thing that we hear today, Mr. Duncan, regarding employees who say, I can't work for that much today. And we're talking about bringing businesses back to America. You can't really be realistically talking about bringing businesses back to America when in the history of America, we were built on free labor and cheap labor. And we have tried to sustain a cheap labor market based on bringing other people to our country. No one is going to work for that anymore. Again, there's nothing wrong with picking cotton. There's something wrong with not getting paid for picking cotton. There's nothing wrong with working hard. So if we're going to create a balance, and then what I'm suggesting when we look at our city, when we understand that, we talk about social justice or racial justice, we have to talk about economic. When I drive through South Dallas and Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove, and I see the descendants in this city of African-American cotton pickers who deserve far more than what they receive because their ancestors have given so much to this city to make it what it is. But until we know that, we can never say to the city, this is what we deserve.
Gotcha. Well, we have about 15 minutes, a little bit over 15 minutes left on tonight's show. Let's kind of talk and transition through to what we'll see at the exhibit. Of course, we have a couple. We have a couple of clips. If you want to spend
yes,
any
that's
of
right. We'd like to show you what you see, and also I brought. We have a couple of clips about people who've seen the exhibit that you can hear their comments. Yes, go ahead.
And one of them being the brother that you mentioned earlier today, which is still stuck in my head, Bonner, who owned 2000 land in North Dallas. And I mean, that story intrigues me. 2,000 acres land that is now North Dallas.
Anderson Bonner, Hendra Chris Hines, all these men and women that, yes, we should first know their names and recognize them.
So where do you want me to start in terms of our clips?
The walkthrough of the museum.
Okay, we'll start there now.
Big D Cotton Without Us, a DEI exhibition curated by Professor Clarence Glover, aka Professor Freedom, and Assistant Curator Lakeem Wilson here at the African American Museum in the basement in the education section. It's up. Yes, and we'll be running through Juneteenth. April 19th, we'll have the opening lecture and gallery talk by me, and inviting the community at 11 o'clock on 19th, my birthday. We invite you to come out, tell your friends, family, church members, everyone. We invite you out. This is walkthrough right now. We'll have a monitor here with information on it. So we encourage you to come out and visit and study the information. There'll be more cards here soon. It's a tribute to our history and to our contribution to the building of Dallas and America. We look forward to you. Hallelujah.
All right.
Yes, and then we have a few clips of some people who came through.
Okay, where do you want me to start?
Just either one, sir.
Okay, there we go.
Who are you, and what's this unique message you have for us today here?
My name is Mario Sweet. I'm from Seattle, Washington. This is my family, Scotland, Xavier, and my wife, Crystal. And I'm a Juneteenth baby. I was born on June 19th, 1980. And it's always proud to know, the intersections of how it represents, I think such a powerful moment. And, love that it's a national holiday now that it's all recognized by all. And
your birthday?
My birthday.
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
well, you get to see an image here of Anderson Bonner. He was here in Texas. he was enslaved here, but
Yeah.
he was emancipated on
Yeah.
June 19th,
Yeah.
1865.
Let's go.
And after that, he became the largest landowner in North Dallas of over 2,000 acres of land,
go.
which is
Anderson Bonner.
now North Dallas.
Mr. Anderson Bonner. Absolutely.
Yeah, remember that? You can Google him,
Love
Anderson.
it.
Wonderful. And then we have there, every dollar you have in your hand is what? Made from 75% cotton and 25% linen. There's no paper in it. You see?
25% cotton,
25 is cotton,
linen.
not paper. Yeah, you see, then every 500-pound bill of cotton produces 330
Yeah.
$100 bill.
Ready to.
Yes.
All right, let me go to the other one, which was a very, very interesting story as well. A brother talking about his family.
Torrance, it's a pleasure to meet you. So, can you just tell me this outstanding story that your family, your mother?
Well, my family originated from in the area of Stamps, Waldo, Magnolia, Arkansas, where they actually were known as the cotton fields down in the Sweet Home area of the plantations. So my mom picked cotton down in that area, the family did, and I was very fortunate in her passing 10 years ago to find her cotton picking book, which was her ledger of how she would come into the store, drop off her cotton, get paid 25 cents, and then go to the general store, who was owned by the plantation owner, to buy the bacon or any food there for the family. So she has a record of that for all that. Yeah.
The cotton picking book. How old are you, sir?
I'm 63. I'll be 63 this year.
Have you ever picked cotton?
I have never. My mom refused to allow us to pick cotton.
Okay.
She said none of her children would ever pick cotton when she had to.
And you know when
All right, and we have one more story, and then we'll let you expound on that a little bit in terms of your interview with these brothers.
Tobias. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and so the African American Museum exhibit, very insightful, very informative. I did not know the impact of the cotton industry to the state of Texas and how African Americans play such a central role in developing this state of Texas and the city of Dallas. I will visit here again and get even more information about African Americans' impact in Dallas, Texas.
are you an educator?
I'm an educator, educator in DeKalb County school system in Georgia.
What do you teach?
I teach Georgia studies,
Okay.
8th grade.
Okay,
It's fascinating. You know, he has another story. We talked about what he teaches in Georgia about African Americans and cotton, because their stories are very similar. Like my family's from Alabama, and the interesting thing for me, I'm a Glover, and I'm a part of the Dallas Pioneer Association because Glovers came to Texas, Dallas, in a similar fashion. George Glover came here from Alabama, and other Africans with him. William Glover, who was the first Anglo man born in Dallas County, came here. There are many Glovers in the city of Dallas that I came to know and when I first arrived, know about. But what I've come to understand now is that Glovers, the white Glovers and black Glovers, had that association because that's a very important issue. Because in the South, you had either your name was taken from the plantation owner, or
correct.
either you had children by an African American woman, men of whom, like we're in Louisiana, the light-skinned Negroes, as we call them. You see, so there's a lot we must unpack. It is a bit. Uh, uh, it's tender. It's a tender history, but as a public historian, that's what I am. I don't sit just in the academy, if you will. I didn't do when I was back there. We come to the public to try to have these discussions and engage this information. And that in the midst of this society now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is the work I have done for over 40 years. So we will continue to do this work as we empower, as not only educating ourselves, but educating others, particularly the European American community, because what we must learn how to do now is to share America. It is all of ours. You see, share America. That's a new movement right there. It's just been born. We must learn how to share America. And there is no one narrative in this country. There's no one, It's not just Western civilization. It's not just European civilization. It's not just George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. You see, it's all of us together.
Absolutely. So, as we begin to round down, we have about 10 minutes left. Tell us what we can expect when we go to the exhibit. You talked about that a little bit earlier. And what do you expect people to take away and do with the information that they're going to learn?
Well, you're going to, of course, read. I try to create something that will engage with the introductory statement that you will see that gives narrative of what it is about. Then a portion of Dallas Observer news article, which you can Google now, Glover Cotton, and read before you arrive. And there's several other articles under that thread, Glover Cotton, that will inform you about the history of cotton here in Dallas. Even like here in the Love Field, like I'm in Elm Thick in North Park. Many people don't know that it was William Cochran who brought the first cotton to North Dallas along the South Shore of Bachman Lake from the Peters colony from Farmers Branch. It was a 670-acre cotton field. Google from cotton field to love field. Google from cotton field to love field. You'll find it. The city bought that land and built a training airplane for pilots, later on becoming Love Field. Google cotton field to love field. These are the secret jewels that we don't know about our city. So you're going to see and hear those things. You're going to read about information. You're going to have a video. You're going to see artifacts. It's going to whet your appetite to want to go deeper. You're going to be standing on an 80-acre cotton field. Yes, the Cotton Bowl found by Curtis Sanford when he went to look at the Rose Bowl, came back, started the Cotton Bowl because cotton was the primary product. Texas is still the largest cotton producing state in the nation, over 5 million acres of cotton.
Still today.
Today, cotton is the official fiber of the state of Texas. The official fiber, like the official flower.
Most people think of cotton and think about the clothes that you're wearing.
Well, there are our clothes, our sheets. The industry that I see here, agribusiness. We must open up our minds to cotton. Yes. And plus, cotton is so comfortable because it vibrates at the same frequency of the human body. It's comforting. It's like when the baby is brought out the mother's womb, we wrap it in cotton. We get under cotton sheets, particularly Egyptian cotton sheets, and we know how expensive those are and how comfortable they are. There's a whole chemistry to that, why the cotton feels the way it feels on us. And then we have just so many things, the songs and the music that came out the cotton field, the spirituals, the blues, which leads all the way up to the jazz and gospel, up to hip hop. You know, we're climbing Jacob's ladder, you know, all these songs that were part of our freedom songs. So as we close tonight, I do encourage people to come out on Saturday at 11 o'clock. We have a lecture. We're going to have a gallery talk, a reception. The rain will come later that evening, and so I hope to see many of you there on Saturday afternoon at 11 o'clock at the African American Museum. Tell your friends and families and church members, everybody to come. But are there any other questions that the audience may or your viewers?
We didn't have any other specific questions. Cousin Audrey Kay said her mother and dad picked cotton during the Great Depression. And we don't have any other specific questions.
Well, most people are doing we say the question, we picked cotton right up to the 1960s. I want people to understand that. The cotton machine did not perfect itself until the 60s. We were still in the fields. I want to really get that in our heads tonight. We, African-American people, made Dallas what it is, not because of the cotton picking machine, but of the cotton pickers. That's very critical.
Yeah. My mother's family, my mother in particular, they picked cotton. She was born, and most of my family on that side were born in the 40s. And they picked cotton. They were in a rural area out in West Texas, but they picked cotton.
West Texas, East Texas, it's all coming east. And then they built what? Henry Ford built the factory down there near the cotton gin. And what connection? Because the tires that were on the early cars did not have radios, they had cotton fiber in them. Henry Ford. Goodyear then built cotton field plantations in Arizona because the cotton was a different type of thread. Texture, you see. And so when we look at this cotton, I'll close out on this cotton very fine. It's very fine. But because in Africa they've been doing it for years. When you take it and you simply start spinning it, it now becomes something that can be used, be it in tires, thread, fabric. But because my family's from Ghana and West Africa, the Glovers are in Ghana. I've been to Bunray, and so our ancestors would spin with taking it from the spider, a non-city spider. They said taught them how to the two men in the forest how to turn that cotton into thread. Now we have a product that we can use. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what revolutionized a nation. Tires, clothing. You see the young people now with all the jeans that are tore. You see threads that come from the fiber that becomes the fabric. This is a part of our history as Africans, the Owu people. And the word Owu means cotton. Yes. And so East Texas, Jim Crow is still alive in many places. But yet, we must then begin to understand in this atmosphere how we can understand how to undo some of the elements and the return of Jim Crow today, which we have seen some of the dynamics. States' rights are being renewed again, limited access to knowledge and information as we know it. But like our ancestors who lived through those periods and had a vision for the future, let us come together now and have a vision for our future and work together.
Amen. And as we close out this show, we want to thank Professor Glover, Clarence Glover, again, aka Professor Freedom, for sharing this information.
The shirts are $40. If you come out and register, I would love to see people embrace this, be proud of it, and let people know that just like we have Cowtown, now we have Big D Cotton without us.
Absolutely. And so as we close out, folks, Jim and I talk about this all the time in our shows, and that is controlling our own destiny. In order for us to control our destiny, we have to control our own history. We have to control our own culture. We have to dominate it in the areas that we consume. We have to dominate it in the areas that we are present. And there is no other way for us to gain our own freedom than to take what is ours and leverage that, not to anybody else's demise, but to our benefit. And that is the only answer that we see. We want to thank you for joining us this evening for the show. We hope you have found this valuable. Again, subscribe if you haven't. Share this information. Make sure that you like this show and share this information with folks who need to see it, which is everyone. And of course, join us next week, because if it's Wednesday night, it is definitely Black Men Speak. Thank you very much.
And if you